What's up, friends? No Tagline Wit here. As I mentioned last episode, Bola's going to be out for a few episodes, so we're joined by guest host Liqua, a friend of ours, and we blurted out about so many things last episode that we ended up having to break the episode into two parts. So this part is our actual review of the movie The Blackening. Enjoy. All right, so we've had a lot of blerding out, so let's move into the main topic of the blackening.
The Blackening.
So what are your, first impressions?
I thought it was really funny. I really, really enjoyed it when I went and saw it. I laughed so hard. I thought at one point I might have peed myself a little bit. And I was like, no, I think I'm okay. But I had a great time.
Nice.
Yeah.
My first impression was actually not from a trailer. I never actually saw a trailer for it before I went to see the movie. I only saw the poster, and that's what got me.
Oh, you never saw the trailer?
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I was drawn in solely because of the poster. Because I thought...
Oh, I think I've seen is that the one that says we can't all die first?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And I just thought the marketing, the way that they pulled that together on the poster was that was all it took for me. I'm like, that is hilarious. Done. I want to see this. I don't know exactly what it's about, but I can kind of figure it out based off of this tagline.
I thought it was like Black Jumanji, and I was in.
But that's all it took for me. So what did you find as far as some of your favorite or funniest parts during the movie?
For me, it was so random, but the part that really stuck with me the most, that I think about the most often, is, now I'm bad at names, so
IMDb.
You're gonna find the names.
Yeah.
The I call him the Carlton character. The one.
Oh yeah, because he had a name similar to Carlton.
Yeah. What was it, Clifton, or?
I think it was Clifton.
Clifton, yeah. When he was pronouncing Hyundai.
That was
Hyundai. He's like, my Hyundai. I'm like, what is he? My Hyundai's outside. What is he? Hyundai? And the thing is, I have a Hyundai. And I sat there and I started thinking, is that the way we're supposed to say Hyundai? Because there is a Y right there. He might be on to something. That might be the way you're supposed to say it. I've never heard anyone say it that way, but he might be right.
Oh, man. That is hilarious. No. I forgot about that. That was funny.
That made me laugh so hard. My Hyundai. Hyundai. What is he talking about? And especially, I think where I got stuck, because I was I hadn't even thought about it, but, I'm normally a real sticker for pronouncing things correctly in the appropriate language and how you're supposed to say it. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm out here pronouncing Hyundai wrong, and I'm still going to do it.
But is that actually?
I don't know. I kept meaning to look it up, and I'm like, maybe that's because Hyundais are Korean, so it's maybe that's how you say it in Korean.
Yeah, because Japanese, I don't think that would be quite.
No, the Hyundais are Korean.
Okay,
yeah, they're not Japanese.
Yeah, I don't know, but that was hilarious because I was like, he said what?
Yeah, I was like, what is he talking about? So that was one of my favorite parts. That's what I thought was one of the funniest parts to me, just personally. And then the part where what's his name? Namadi was talking to the gangster one.
King was the gangster one.
King. And they were sitting outside, and he was like, "You gonna stop calling my wife the white man?" And he's like, "Oh, so you don't got a gun?" And they come to find out he had a gun. And then here go Clifton correcting his grip.
Yes, that was hilarious. With that, the gangster, the side grip, and then he turns it right way. I'm like, you can't aim that way.
And in my mind, I'm like, as someone who shotguns, I was like, That was correct. He should have did that. But if he knew what he was doing, why didn't he just take the gun and shoot the dude?
Oh, man. I was like, one of the funniest part. Well, I mean, there's so many funny parts during this movie, but I thought it was really funny at the very beginning with Yvonne Orji's character. I think was like, what was her name? Not Martha. Morgan.
Yeah.
Morgan and Sean. Yvonne Orji and Jay Farrow's character. And they were talking about like any movies where the black people survived or whatnot, and they were like, "Oh, Jada Pinkett and somebody else in some movie," and they're like, "No, they died." And I was like, "Well, I feel like it's because they couldn't afford them for the whole movie." And then they kind of look at each other, and they were like the first
ones to die. Yeah, I thought that was interesting because Kenny and I talk about the movies when we're on the way home, and I was talking to him about that. I was like, you know what? Those are the only two actors I know from the whole thing. And then I realized the lawyer. I thought she was this lady called Amara La Negra, who is a Dominican and Afro Latina. She's not just a reality star. She's like a performer and things like that. And I thought that's who that was because I thought I recognized her. But really, she's a different actress. I think she's most known for being on Dear White People, but that's not what I know her from. I know her from being in Heart of Dixie for like 1 or 2 seasons. And I was like, oh, okay. So I recognized her, but I mistook her for someone else, but I knew her from somewhere. Okay. But other than that, I didn't know any of them other actors.
Same. She looked familiar to me, but nobody else other than Yvonne Orji and Jay Farrow.
And the white guy,
the
sheriff.
Sheriff White? Yeah. I thought they were joking.
Was on, they used to be like on the Drew Carey show or something.
I don't know what exactly I know him from.
He was on some sitcom back in the 90s.
But yeah, I do know that I knew him, but I thought they were joking the entire time when they're like, Sheriff White. And I'm like, oh, that's actually his name.
Yeah. R.I.P. Sheriff.
Right?
He didn't make it.
But like, I also loved, like, I wondered at like getting through the end, and as you guys know, BlerdTalk is a spoiler full. So don't listen to any of our stuff if you haven't seen it and you want to see it or just don't mind spoilers, because it's gonna be full of spoilers. I'm like, who picked this cabin?
It was so funny to me because like I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it because I'm buying into the premise. Like, okay, I guess maybe they're in California or something. I don't really know. So, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so you've got these. They're reuniting. It's been 10 years. It's Juneteenth. So what are these, black people? So they're probably in their early 30s, they done gone off, they done got their careers, blah, blah, blah. They're still friends. They're clearly successful by the way that they're dressed and the way they talk, blah, blah. And I'm looking at the cabin and I'm like, that looks like an Airbnb. I'm like, that looks like something I would pick out for my friends. Right? Like, I've taken my friends to Airbnbs in the mountains before, but maybe for them it's like, oh, there's no, like, we are too far off the beaten path because we just had a girls trip to Gordonsville and that's just a little town in the mountains. But we were near civilization. Food Lion was like right there, so I guess it was okay. And
we've been in West Virginia too.
Like, we've been to West Virginia.
But I've
been to like Lexington. Like, I go to the mountains. So like, to me, like, just them being in the mountains wasn't really that scary.
It wasn't to me. The thing that was scary was like the dude at the convenience store. At the gas station. I'm like, this don't feel like a safe space for black people.
But it's so weird because growing up around here, right? So, I live in the country now, and I don't. It's so weird because we went to the gas station right next to my house the other day for ice cream, and that was my first time going in there, even though I like get gas there. And just going in there were so many different mixes of white person in there because it was a Saturday night and it's summer, so like I didn't realize that's the closest store to Lake Chesney. And so you had people coming off of the lake that were in there grabbing stuff. So you had like these teenagers that were like partying, maybe not college students still partying or whatever, and then you had like these older kind of gruff trucker looking guys. And then you had like people that looked like they were on drugs. Like, there was just a lot of different mixtures. And I kept looking at Kenny because he's been, going to that store his whole life. And I'm just like, this place is safe. And he's like, yes, it's a safe place. And I'm like, some of these people are activating my we don't need to be here senses. like, are you sure about this? Like, do we really need ice cream?
Right.
And he's like, no, it's fine. And it was fine. No one said anything to us. We were perfectly safe. I just felt uncomfortable. But you have those experiences when you go to certain stores just here where we live.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting because, like, we live in the South. We go through those experiences all the time. Maybe they activate our radar, maybe they don't. But just by nature of living in the South, you're going to go into a convenience store and maybe feel that way, especially if it's like, you know, like a 7-Eleven or like a little family-owned convenience store. It's not like a chain. It's not like a Wawa or a Sheetz or something like that. But them, you know, they're out in California. So it's like, what are their experiences like out there compared to here? Like, should their senses have been going off immediately? Or is it, you know, like, how does that compute? Because at one point in the movie, he goes, oh, I paid those rednecks and that was easy. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I got redneck friends. Like, I would never associate a redneck with a killer. Like, I would never think, oh, I'm going out with my redneck friends, I'm gonna get killed. I would think, oh, I'm going out with my redneck friends, we're gonna, you know, be at the bonfire, or there's gonna be some beer, or, you know, it's gonna be a bunch of trucks. But I would never think, oh, I'm gonna get shot with arrows because I'm with rednecks. Like,
Say, I guess it's just because, like, Virginia technically is in the South. My dad and my brother are probably what would be considered black rednecks.
my dad is a black redneck.
They hunt,
absolutely.
they fish, they watch NASCAR.
Yeah.
I mean,
my
I fish
dad,
as well,
you
but
know, he says some stuff sometimes, man. My dad's a little racist. And when we go down to like Florida and stuff like that, the way he talks about Latino people really boils me up, because he sounds like a racist. Not saying that all rednecks are racist, because, like, you know, we have redneck friends, but some can be. But I wouldn't immediately associate the two, you know. So it just is.
it's interesting. I feel like there's different levels.
Different levels, yeah.
Because at the same time, my mom's like, I would like to go to Mississippi or Alabama. There's so much history. I'm like, because of that history, I don't want to go there.
What?
I have no desire to go. No, I don't even want to stay. Maybe we could drive through and see the museum. But I have no desire to stay in Mississippi or Alabama.
I would never go to Mississippi or Alabama.
Hell no.
Like,
I'm like,
my family is from Texas and Georgia, and I'm comfortable with those places. I'd even be comfortable with Louisiana. You definitely, even just statistically, when you look at like health, there's like a lot of population data on this, but like when you look at like health, education, poverty, socioeconomic status, like Alabama and Mississippi are really rough places. Like they're not the best places to be. Like, it's kind of like, for what? It's basically like it's basically like the whole state is a ghetto. Like for real, like, you know, and you know the rule about ghettos: if you're not from there, you don't need to be there. So that's how that works.
yeah. But I'm like, I feel like there's a statistically higher concentration of KKK down there, so I have no desire to go.
That's where it's like, there's absolutely no reason to be there. I mean, maybe you could go to Mobile. But what you gonna do, golf? Like,
I don't know. I'm like, nah, I can go to like maybe somebody. Let me go to DC to the Black History Museum. I don't need to go down to Alabama and Mississippi.
There's
No, thank
no
you.
reason to be there.
No, thank you.
I mean, you can look at the river, maybe. Like, you can do a riverboat cruise or something. But
I can do that
you
in
know.
Louisiana from New Orleans, where I feel safe.
Exactly. So I guess, you know, the movie had so many different themes about blackness and things like that. But I think at the beginning, like, you know, like, how safe are you? Is like number one when you're black all the time. Number one, how safe am I in any given situation? And I guess, you know, that's probably a human thing. I think, you know, it's like, one is like, oh, I'm black, how safe am I? Two, I'm a woman, how safe am I? You know?
But I do admit, like, if I go someplace, especially if it's someplace I don't know and it happens to be in quote unquote the country, this isn't like necessarily a super what do you call it when it's like in the back of your mind?
Subconscious?
Yeah, it's like subconscious. It's not like really conscious, but I do look around and see, are there any black people here?
Oh, I'm always looking for black people, but because of like the nature of my work, so, you know, black therapists, like, we're only 3% of the workforce.
Oh, damn.
And that's all therapy professions. So that's, licensed professional counselors, licensed clinical social workers, psychologists, all of the mental health profession that can call themselves a therapist, a shorthand. Black people, only 3% of that.
Wow.
So, and then black men are an even smaller percentage of that. So like when most people think of a therapist, they actually imagine a white woman because that's what dominates the profession. And then after that, white men. So just professionally, always alone. Oh, just constantly. And I'm constantly in spaces where I'm like the only black person. And it's been like that for me for like a very long time. Like I went to William & Mary. There were not a lot of us there. Like I've traveled, I've lived in Spain, not a lot of us out there. And those of us that are out there, at least at the time that I was living there, were actually like African immigrants. And, Spain's like everywhere else. If you don't speak the language, they treat you like crap. That's just how that's how human beings are.
Yeah.
So, so I'm used to like being the only black person in spaces. Plus, black alternative girl growing up, it's more acceptable. It's more cooler now. I guess, people don't like get as shocked when they see like a black alternative girl or stuff like that. But when you go to like shows or you're at, certain bars, like I used to go to like this goth bar a lot. Yeah, there's not a lot of us in there. So you kind of get used to like, with someone like me, like you get used to being the only one. And so just being around like all white people doesn't always necessarily like spark that, fight or flight, like, oh, I'm in danger type thing. But at the same time, it's what type am I around? Like what vibes am I getting? Who looks dangerous? And sometimes the most dangerous looking ones is the best ones to hang out with. Sometimes the ones, I used to have a really good friend who honestly looked like a Confederate soldier. Like you remember Tony? At one point, he had a long beard and a long handlebar mustache, and he wore that cowboy hat everywhere. And whenever we'd go somewhere, people would be like, we'd go to like B-dubs or something, and people would be like, "There's no way these two people are hanging out together." And I'm like, he's a phenomenal friend. He pays for everything. No one fucks with me when I'm hanging out with him. He listens to all my problems. We fool around sometimes. Like we had a good time. He just looks like he should hate me, but he doesn't. It's like that sometimes.
It is.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me, it's more of I don't know. I just feel a little bit more secure. Like it's not quite a safety thing, but it's almost like I feel a little bit more comfortable. Like,
yeah, I can be myself more.
Yeah.
And be accepted.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just, that is interesting to think of that. But yeah, man, with all the places that you've always picked for us, like if it's like, the mountains or like Gordonsville.
I love the mountains.
I did love the mountains.
I'm probably always going to pick the mountains on a trip. Either the mountains or Vegas. I just love the mountains.
Oh yeah, Vegas is going to be amazing. But I think I would feel a certain type of way with the cabin that had like game heads on the wall, even though my parents' house has deer heads on the wall.
I try not to stay in those types of cabins. I just think they're too rustic.
They're too rustic. And I feel like I would have a type of vibe like, maybe not. Even though my aunt, my deceased great aunt, like their house, like the back room, and like my parents' house is better because they got high ceilings and the deer head is way up. That makes it more. My mom was like, okay, I can live with this, with it being that high up. But when it's like right here, slightly above like your head or eye level, it's like,
yeah, that probably wouldn't have popped a bell for me either. And I don't know, maybe I'm one of these blacks that's going to get murdered one day, but it wouldn't have really popped for me because all I would have thought is, oh, they do a lot of hunting. I wonder if they got some deer meat up in here. Deer meat's delicious. Like that's probably all that would have popped for me.
I think it pops for me. I think that type of rustic would pop for me just because of how many horror movies take place in these rundown looking cabins with like the game heads. Like Evil Dead. I don't watch a lot of horror movies.
Oh, okay, so that's why.
Yeah, because like Evil Dead, that's like the exact same type of cabin. Kind of rundown looking. There's like a deer head on the wall, some hidden basement, and it's like, no, this is not safe based on my viewing.
Yeah, but I guess, Yvonne Orji's character picked the cabin. I guess she thought it was good. I guess it came highly recommended. And then the sheriff stopped them immediately. Like, these two twins do not normally rent to black people. I am concerned. And really, the sheriff knew what was going on all along. He was like, no, these two brothers are mad racist, and I don't think you guys should be here. And I am scared for y'all. That's what he should have said. That's what he should have said. It's like, what you mean? Hold on. Tell me some more. Like, what's up? Like,
right. I also thought it was like, but I'm sorry, I have to come back to the cabin because I'm just like, how did Clifton know where they were going to be? That's why I asked who picked the cabin.
You know what? I don't know. They didn't really, like, honestly, it's one of those things that the theater was kind of loud because everybody was laughing so much. And of course, it's a black, it was full of black people. There was like maybe one white guy with his maybe 8-year-old son, which I was confused about.
Oh.
Like, why? Like, why are they here? And Kenny looked at me. He's like, white people can enjoy things. Don't be racist. I'm like, all right. I'm just confused. I've never seen a white person in a black movie before.
I would have been concerned about the what? I mean, not concerned, but like that thing would have, but the 8-year-old thing would have been, I was like,
But, yeah, because, when they were explaining, like, that it was Clifton and what he had did, I was just like, hold on, wait a minute. So he's like, I was invited, but it's like, but no one knew you. Like, that should have been the first time, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, you brought so-and-so to my house and I don't know them? Like, what's up? Like, that's a very not black response to me.
Yeah.
Like, I got offended one time. I used to have a girlfriend. I invited her to my birthday party and it was at my house or something. She was late getting there, but she sent her boyfriend ahead and I had met him, but she hadn't asked me if she could bring him. She hadn't mentioned it to me or anything like that. So he knocks on the door. He's there. He's not with her. It's like, you're just giving out my address to random dudes. Just like, who is, like, he's cool here, have a plate. But like, what is up with this?
Yeah. I feel like maybe it's because we're both like, not just us, but also our families are from the South. It's like, this is not what you do. Like, this is not what you do. This is not Southern hospitality. There are certain things that are rude, and I think that's rude.
You have to tell your host in advance.
Right.
You can't just be like, whatever. It is. It's strange. So, like, now that you point that out, I don't know.
Because I feel like he had something to do with it. Because otherwise, how is it that the exact same dudes...
He emailed all of them pretending to be her, and maybe he emailed her. But then again, that doesn't work because women talk too much. Like, you can't pretend. I wish somebody would email me pretending to be you. Talk about, oh, Liqua, we gonna go on this trip. You think I'm not texting you? You think I'm not calling you? What outfit you gonna wear? What we doing? Like, that doesn't work.
And plus, for me, I'm like, I'm at a consumer level, like, as far as data security and stuff. I'm looking at who it actually says, not just who the little, whoever you can set your name to. Yeah. I'm looking at the actual email address. Yeah. And I'm like, no.
So I don't know. Maybe he actually did get invited, but he clearly wasn't their friend just from the offset because nobody remembered his name.
And I feel like maybe he wasn't invited.
I think, I agree. Like, I don't think he was. Because they were talking about 10 people. Because at one point, I think they mentioned 10. And I kept trying to add up.
And I thought they said 8. Screen. And I kept getting confused. I was confused by the number of people.
It might have been either 8 or 10. But I was trying to add up after I had caught the number. Because I'm like, okay, so them two, because they were at the spades table playing spades, but the shot kept cutting back and forth. I kept getting confused about whether or not I had counted that person. Yeah. And so I'm just like, so is it 9 people? Is it 8? Like, how many people are here? Like, how many people are supposed to be here?
Exactly.
Because remember, I can't remember the gay character's name. Best character.
He was also. His name was, come on, IMDb, Dwayne. Also, apparently, I don't know his name in real life, but he's the one that came up with the original concept. He's the original creator, because I seen this on, like, the internet at some point. And the actor's name is actually Dwayne Perkins.
Okay, well, there you have it. But, the movie is based off of a skit that a comedy group did.
Okay.
And he's in that comedy group that came up with the original skit. So he is one of the creators, which I thought was really cool. But you know, when Dwayne was like, who all gonna be there? Who? 7 I think he was 7. Like, wait a minute.
As long as Namdi's not gonna be there, then I'm cool. And then they exchange. Then like, what was her name? Lisa and Allison exchange a look.
Mm-hmm. I loved that. I love that all that black woman talking back and forth with looks, but them adding words to it. I thought that was amazing.
That was hilarious.
Like, this was so great. And then when the men started doing, he's like, I heard all of that.
Did you wonder though? Is like, does this crossover? Like, can the women hear the men and the men hear the women, or is it just the men have their own wavelength and the women have their own wavelength?
I thought it was like the men had their own wavelength.
That's
and
what
the women
I
had
felt
their
too.
own wavelength, because I don't. Just in my own personal life, I don't do a lot of like no talking, like silent talking to men. I mean, maybe with Julian, but like. He doesn't quite count in that way. You know, he'll say, oh, that's my feminine side if he was here. So, yeah. Yeah, I felt like it was the women talking and then like the men talking. And I thought it was great. That was my
awesome.
favorite part.
But that was hilarious when they had their, not a word spoken. They're like, we're going to do this. And then Clifton looked like, I heard all that.
Clifton as a character, man, I thought it was so interesting. But yeah, because are we going in order of the movie or?
Nah, we can skip around.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that stood out for me in the movie just immediately after the movie. One, I thought it was really cool that the black gay man saved everybody, because you don't see that very often. You don't see just like a gay man having that type of agency. And like when he was like, this is one of my favorite parts, when the girl was trying to figure out who to shoot the arrow at because the lights were out, and she was like, say something gay. And he was like, that is very offensive. Blah, 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 because I couldn't hear the rest because the theater was like cracking up.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't hear what was said after that. But I was like, yes. Tell her. Yes, because you know he wasn't a trope. He was like a full character. He had his full thoughts. He was like, my friend is out here fucking up, and I do not care for this. And I was the one that was here with you, and you are betraying me. And I can't believe y'all would leave me to die. How dare y'all?
And look, I done saved y'all.
And now I'm the one that saved you. They will never hear the end of that. Ever. And then, oh my God, that yellow jumpsuit that he changed into at the end when the firefighters were coming. Oh my gosh.
That was hilarious.
I need it. I don't even like the color yellow.
Did you change?
Yes. The firefighters are going to come to save us, and they didn't.
Oh, that is fun. Oh, yes. That like super hose. Like, oh, that's taking it back to like Jim Crow era.
That's exactly what I thought. And I was like, oh, not the hose. Because I had to explain to Kenny, because, I don't know if it's because we grew up different. Like his family's from Virginia, my family's from the deep South, but we both went to like Chesterfield schools. But I think my family enhanced my like black education, and so we kind of joke back and forth with each other. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, you up north blacks don't know anything, like these deep South blacks, because especially when we watched Lovecraft Country, like that was something like he didn't always pick up on all the references and understand certain things. And I'm like, how did you not know this?
I didn't know. I don't think my mom knew either. Like, they don't teach that stuff, and that's why I love things like Lovecraft Country and Watchmen, because until Watchmen, I had never heard of Black Wall Street, and that the way that like the white
my dad taught me a lot of that stuff. My dad's from Georgia, and he taught me more of that stuff than my mom did. Like he was very like we lived in one of those houses with like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X on the wall, like stuff like that. But what was interesting to me, like I saw that and I immediately was like, oh, that is so painful. Like getting hit with a hose hurts. Like, so they immediately did just a great deal of violence to these people that have already suffered through all of this violence. Yeah. And, firefighters rather than help. And there was no fire. And I thought that was a social commentary. It's like, even when black people call for help, like the help can hurt you. Right. So like that kind of sat with me when we were like leaving out the theater. Cause that's the last thing I see is like, I don't expect to see a hose turned on black people, but that one hit pretty hard for me. Like seeing that, I'm just like, oh man, that's just awful.
Yeah.
Right. So there was that, but
Did you also think it was kind of funny and interesting that at the very end they're discussing, well, do we call the police?
no, you absolutely can't call the police.
No.
You got 2 dead white men in your house. It's like the end of Get Out, where like the scariest part of Get Out isn't everything that the character went through. It's the cop car that pulls up. Because you're just like, oh, he's finna get killed. But then it's his friend coming to save him. It's like, oh, great. But like, it's like that. It's like, well, I can't call the police and tell the police I'm out here in some house. And these white men were terrorizing me and I've been fighting for my life. Like, it's true. There's evidence there. They're not going to believe me right away. Is there someone on your porch?
No, I don't think.
Yeah,
I think somebody might have some sparklers. It's near the 4th of July, you guys.
Oh gosh, it's like they're not gonna believe me right away. So like, what can I do? And it's like my fingerprints here. Like I would be terrified to be in that situation. Like live through it and then have to like call it in. Yeah, because they're gonna be like, well, why didn't you call when it first started happening? Oh, they had a machine blocking cell phone signal. They had a machine blocking cell phone signal. Like they're not gonna believe that right away.
And I love that they had that in the movie. Like, you survive all of this and you still might not be in the clear.
Yeah, the movie to me was very, very Black in a lot of ways. It was very like much steeped in Black culture. You know, like how we turn everything into a joke and we can always laugh at our pain and our sorrow, and it's one of our most resilient mechanisms. But we also kind of have this, because for me, what was so interesting about the movie was the idea that the killer was a Black person who was mad at other Black people because they said he wasn't Black enough.
Oh, yeah.
And Black people, we're always trying to quantify. Well, I shouldn't say always, but I know a lot of us have gone through a lot of experiences where people have tried to quantify our Blackness, right? I can't tell you how many times in my life I've been called an Oreo. And it's when I talk like this. And I've had patients, like I've had like Black patients get mad at me for talking to them properly because they feel like I'm trying to act white. And it's like, no, I'm being professional and I don't know you. So this is like a courtesy. Yeah. And I've had to switch into, I prefer to call it Ebonics. The modern term is AAVE, but I think AAVE is too long of a term.
What is
it stands for African American Vernacular English.
Oh, okay.
I think it's too long.
No.
I just prefer to say Ebonics, but some people find that pejorative. But for me, when I describe it, I consider like that to be like my first dialect. That's how I speak most of the time. I also cuss a lot. I try to work on it, but when I'm at work, I don't cuss. So then I consider Standard English to be my second language and then Spanish to be my third. And so when I'm expressing myself, I'm always flipping back and forth between different like registers and dialects and contexts and things like that. And, sometimes patients don't like it. They're like, oh, you're talking to me like white person, especially patients that are older and have been through a lot of damage to the mental health system by like white practitioners. Like they do not like it. So I have to, start kind of letting some of that down, but still be like, professional with it.
Yeah.
But, it's just like, we're always trying to measure. It's like for him, it was like, oh, I didn't know how to play spades. And it's like, no one in the younger generation really knows how to play unless your parents don't teach you. You just come across a friend that helps you learn or something like that. Like
I actually know how to play from
my parents. I know how
parents.
to play, but you actually learned from your parents?
Yeah, but every time I play, I have to be retaught.
Yeah. I don't mind playing spades. I've kind of have jumped in when like, oh, we need a fourth. Like I don't have like a dedicated spades partner, and I tend to do pretty okay.
I don't have the attention span.
Yeah,
for spades.
You do have to watch. Yeah,
and I don't. I'll be like watching the TV or something, and be like, "Who put that card down?" And everybody's looking at you like.
But I think spades gets like incredibly aggressive.
Yes,
and I don't mind playing, and then I'll talk shit with the best of them. Like I don't really care. But the thing about me is like I don't care that much about a game. So it's like, okay, I'm here, because you guys needed somebody, but at the end of the day, it's not that big a deal for me. So like we can play, but whatever. But I totally get like the number of times I've been at a party. Oh, we need someone else. Do you know how to play? Do you know how to play? Do you know how to play? And I'm the only person that knows how to play. It'll be like 15, 20, 30 people there. I'll be the only person that also knows how to play. Because it takes courage to just jump into a spades game if you don't know the people that you're playing with.
Yeah.
Because that it's
especially
hard.
like my parents' generation.
Yeah.
I went to my parents' house one day, and they were just hanging out. Mm-hmm. My brother and his brother, his older brother, my Uncle James, my Aunt Betty, and actually I think my cousins Maurice and Delinda were there. It was silent. Just silence. They take it so serious.
Yeah, serious. And I get that. And I don't mind. There's an auntie that we have that always wants to play, and I don't ever want to play with her just because she gets too damn aggressive and too loud. It's like, man, I prefer a little chill with my games. If I'm gonna get into it like this, I'd rather play Uno. Or let's have some fun and make it something that everybody can play. But my family is a dominoes family, and anytime I want to play dominoes, I do tend to have to teach people. But like dominoes, people will teach you how to play dominoes. But dominoes also isn't as complicated as spades is. So it was just really interesting. It's like, so there's this man from Maine. I guess I ain't never been to Maine.
I haven't either.
I guess there's not a lot of us out there, which wouldn't surprise me because it's also very cold in Maine,
and we don't do that. Yeah, we don't like that.
We are descended from Africans. It's hot in Africa. We are not doing cold. That is my take on it.
And I will plus we're like one that.
And and he makes it like his whole life. It's like, you guys didn't play spades. You guys wouldn't let me play spades. You roasted me. You told me I wasn't black. I had a couple shots. I went out. I didn't know. Was it a white girl that he had killed in the movie or no?
I don't know if they said.
They might not have said, and then he only did 4 years, which I found fascinating. Like, how did you only do 4 years? But okay, whatever. It's a movie. I'll let it go. But I'm sitting here and I'm like, but you chose to drink and drive. Okay. So a big part of our culture is roasting. You couldn't take your roasting. Okay, fine, whatever. But you're the one out here making bad decisions. It didn't occur to you to just walk home. It didn't occur to you to just go sit in another corner of the party, eat a snack. Like, why would you just get drunk? And if you had just got to college, you was definitely 18. You definitely shouldn't have been drinking anyway. So all you did was make bad decisions. And now you want to kill all these people 10 years later?
Because they said
you
won't black.
You was out here like, oh, you're the reason. And it's like, so this idea of like being black enough drove this man crazy.
That is it. That is like going way too far. But I also am one of those people who have, gotten that from some of our people sometimes. Yeah. You ain't black enough because some of your interests, being again, blurs are more prevalent now, but
Yeah, when we were growing up, there was nobody. There was like Urkel. And that was it. And, nowadays, everybody knows Megan Thee Stallion's a Blerd.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, I don't really keep up with celebrity stuff.
She's an anime Blerd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then a lot of like the rappers are Blerds, right? And it's because a lot of kids grew up watching, what's that one?
Dragon Ball Z?
Yes. Like, what's that one all the guys like? Because, I don't do anime. I am sci-fi, paranormal, magic. Like, that's me. Period pieces. That's where I'm at on the Blerd ship. I don't video game. And I don't do anime. And I do closet cosplay. I don't do real big, elaborate cosplay. And that's me. But, like... People are just strange when they just, like, oh, you're a Blerd, you're not black enough, or, all your friends are white, or, you talk too proper, or, you went to, a good school. And it's just like, when did having nice things become not black? Like, we didn't grow up watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Whitley Gilbert and Regine Hunter on Living Single. All black people doing well. It's like, you can, I think, for certain types of people, like particularly like maybe people of a lower socioeconomic status, like they associate being of a lower socioeconomic status with the black experience, and it doesn't occur to them. And I think the media makes it worse.
Yeah.
It doesn't occur to them that, you're black no matter where you are. You have problems with being black no matter where you are. Like, people see you as black first. They don't see the money. They don't know what education you went to. They don't know what school they don't care where your house is. They look at you and you're black first. And so it's all the same struggles, all the same fights all the time. And maybe, you know, colorism, you know, maybe some people have it a little bit better than others because of colorism, and maybe some people have it better than others because of gender or sexual orientation. At the end of the day, I feel like you're black first.
It's something that I don't really think about that often until it comes up with somebody saying, "Oh, your black card is rejected because of that." Or,
yeah, who the hell is giving out cards? Like, you know, that's the part. There's a card game. It's called Black Card Revoked, and I always wanted to get it, and I never got it. And at this point, I'm probably not going to get it. But it's just like, who the hell decide, like, oh, we're taking points off your black card for not being able to do this? And it's just like, who the hell is issuing cards? Like, where's the card at? Like, you know, or like, oh, we're giving some, because they don't say black card no more. They say, oh, you're invited to the cookout. Oh, so-and-so can come to the cookout.
See, I'm always behind on all of the different new...
Well, we're older. So, like, when we were coming up, like, everyone was always talking about black cards. But nowadays, you know, they just talk about, like, oh, so-and-so can come to the cookout. Like, they'll invite people of other races. Like, oh, they're cool with us. Like, oh, they have a little bit of black in them. And it's like, girl, stop. Like, like, everybody just stop.
Speaking of the cookout, with the Sheriff White was like, if I got invited to a black cookout, I would be honored, but I would decline.
I felt like that's something that Ted would say. Like, when Ted started meeting me at BlerdCon, he was very conscious of the fact that it was a black space, and he was very much like, is this okay? And my thing was, oh, it's supposed to be inclusive of everybody, and anyways you're with me, you'll be fine. Come on. Like, I'm your pass. I have an afro. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, but I'm trying to think. Any other points or things that you... Oh, that Kool-Aid.
There's no way that was good.
Everybody said that it was terrible.
Absolutely no way. I don't even know the last time I had Kool-Aid, okay?
It has been at least a decade for me.
Yeah, at least.
At least. But I'm just like, I thought it was funny that they kept... that it was almost like a comedic callback because they were like, "You gonna get a cramp," and then when he was wailing on the one dude and he was beating his ass, and then he's like, "Oh, cramp."
Yeah. A part that I thought was interesting was when the lawyer character, what's her name, Lisa?
I think it was Lisa.
When Lisa had to bludgeon one of those guys to death. And the rage just came out of her. It was like, sick of black women having to save everybody all the damn time. And I felt so seen. I was like, I understand.
I loved that scene too.
Like, I felt, I'm like, yes, beat him, girl. Because like, that's how I felt when we were there last week at the restaurant with that wasp. I'm like, I'm going to have to save everybody. Because these men refuse to kill this wasp.
I didn't feel seen because like
everyone,
I'm not a savior.
all of the other ladies here are too squeamish, and I'm not squeamish like that. Everyone's afraid. Like, I'm not afraid, but I'm gonna have to kill this wasp.
I didn't feel seen because I'm not a savior, but I felt like this is on point. And you know who I thought of?
Who?
You know who I thought of.
Thought of me?
Yeah, I thought of you. Because you are a savior too. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I mean, I definitely think in that scenario I would have beat the hell out of that. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
And then the light skinned chick, Allison, when she put all the little war paint
on, yes,
it was, and beat his ass, like took over the beating of his ass on the other one near the lake or the pond. I was like, yeah. For two of these, the black woman saved.
Yeah, I would definitely. So basically, this group of grown ass men still being there, the women and the gay man, who was still also a grown ass man, but at least he kicked in when it was time to do something. He did something. Although, to be fair, I was struck with that scene when Lisa was about to get shot and Namadi like kind of stood in front of her and pushed her out the way.
That's
and he was
true.
like protecting her.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, that's good. You know, good instincts. I would like to think that, you know, someone would do that for me, but like, you know, I don't know. of the two of us, I am the more like garrulous one. Like I would be the one more likely to fight. He would be the one more likely to hide. Like, I've actually been in fights. He's never been in a fight before in his life. Like, and I got a knife in my car. He doesn't. So like, I think it would be different.
Yep. But it was just, I was like, yeah. That's exactly what it is. Black women always saving people.
Always saving. Because the thing about it is, if people would just listen to us when we speak the first time, things would be very different. Like I find myself having thoughts like that all the time for in lots of different scenarios. It's just like, man, this lady just told you, and if you would just listen to her the first time, you wouldn't have to do all this. But people are free to listen or not listen. You got free will or whatever. But to me, it's just like, this is like, why do we always have to save you all the time? Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I won't watch. Well, I'm hesitant to watch Ted Lasso because, one of my girlfriends was asking me, she's like, hey, there's this new trope where, there's always a black therapist in like TV shows, and the black therapist is helping people and saving people. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, I watch wrestling and period pieces. I don't know anything about that. That's legit what I said to her at the time. Like, I don't watch real TV. Like, I watch Everybody Loves Raymond. It's like one of my favorite comfort shows. Like, I do not watch real TV.
I got you.
I mean, there might be a series here and there, but like on the regular, no.
I loved the what was I thinking? When they were in the house and the doors got unlocked. And they're like, oh, well, I think we should stay in here. And they're like, well, I think we should go in the woods. In the house.
I can't believe they split up.
Yeah, they're like, no, you're not going to say it.
What are you doing?
Why?
I'm just happy they split up and survived because I
expected a whole bunch of people.
When they split up, like, what? I was like, what is you doing? Like, I was like, we have to split. What? And then when they left homeboy in the car, I was also like, what? Like, what is happening? And I don't know, maybe because I come from a military family, it's like, we're at war. We're in battle. You don't leave people in the middle of battle. What are you doing?
Yeah. And I was like, y'all wrong for that. Save yourself. He was not serious. But still, that was not the ideal time to be making no joke, though.
Yeah, he should have. He should have said what he did. He meant what he said.
For real.
That's what he saved everybody. So I guess it worked out in the end. But yeah, I mean, and then on top of that, going back to, how are we going to ask for help? Oh, the killer's in the bottom of the well. We can't even prove the killer's there. Yeah, but I will say out of the Blackening, like the game itself, that was interesting to me. Because
oh my god,
the question that they got wrong when it was like, name the Friends, name the characters in Friends, or the black people, name the black people who would be in Friends.
Yeah, four black.
Like now here's the thing, and they were like, the right answer is, I've never seen Friends. I watched Living Single. I thought that was hilarious because that's the answer I would have gave. I have never seen Friends, and I have never seen Friends because it is a ripoff of Living Single. I love Living Single. I don't like how Friends got so popular and Living Single, didn't like the way that it was supposed to. And they've made all this money, and then they got the balls to be like, they should make a black reboot of Friends. Like, no, bitch. Like, y'all stole our show. And there's a long history in media of like, black artists and black entertainers getting ripped off and replicated, especially like in music and radio back in the day. Remember we talked about it in Dreamgirls, like when they did that Cadillac.
Oh my God.
Like that happened in real life. And so, like if I had been playing that game, that'd have been my answer. Like legit. But it was interesting because it's like, that's my real answer. But maybe that answer is a trendy answer now because maybe people are okay admitting like, I do like some white things. Because, back in the day, they would have never said, they just said, that's a white show. I wouldn't watch that.
I don't have that same problem, but Friends was just of no interest to me.
Yeah,
I didn't watch all of Living Single. I did watch some of it, but I don't think I've watched a full episode of Friends.
I thought you were gonna say Living Single.
No. I've seen a number of episodes of Living Single. I didn't watch it on the regular, but I don't think I've seen a full episode of Friends.
I am very much a Maxine Shaw. Like if I was a character, I am Maxine Shaw, 100%, 100%. And I even started like dressing more like her, putting more jewel tones in my wardrobe recently, more structured jackets. I'm like, yeah, I got a couple pieces. I'm like, oh, this is my Maxine Shaw jacket. So, but that one really did strike me. Like, okay, yeah. So we do have some cultural things. Like there are games like this.
Yeah.
Where, there are Black culture and culture games. But I just think we have to be careful to like realize like there is no authority on who's Black.
Or if you're Black enough.
I mean, and all of that really comes from slavery. So this is an aside, but I recently watched Masterpiece Theater. It's called The Long Song, right? It's based off of a book. So it was just 3 episodes. And I have a Masterpiece subscription. You can get it through Amazon Prime for like $4.99. It's worth it to me, but it might be worth it to some of y'all. But when the show came out at first, I hesitated to watch it. And the reason I hesitated is because for Black characters in like old, like, Masterpiece type stuff, a lot of times these characters are like maids or they're slaves or something like that. And I, generally speaking, don't watch anything where we're depicted as maids or slaves. I just don't do it anymore. I reached the point where I'm done. But this one in particular takes place in Jamaica in, I think, 1830, which at the time Jamaica was not independent. They were still under British rule. And it follows, this is actually the story of a Black enslaved woman who does become free. And she's actually recounting her life's tale. I guess, I can't really estimate how old she is at the time. She's the narrator. So maybe she's 60 or 70 and she's narrating her life and she's narrating about how she was born into slavery, but she was actually, this is what was interesting. Her character is supposed to be mulatto. Her character is portrayed by a dark-skinned Black woman, right? But at a certain point in the series, it becomes very clear that she's using her half-whiteness for power. Like she works in the house, and she ends up falling in love with and entering into a faux type of marriage with the master. It becomes very strange. They have a child. And she uses it for power for herself so that she doesn't have to be in the fields, because she started out her life in the fields. And then at one point in the show, because Jamaica does become independent during the course of the show, but at one point in the show, she... I shouldn't say independent. The slaves become free. I think they still are like a Commonwealth country during the time. Because England freed their slaves. They freed theirs in like the 1830s. They didn't go to war or anything. They just declared, okay, all slaves are free, and they got rid of them all. Or freed everyone, so to speak. And there is another slave. She comes and she's visiting for a party. So she's like a maidservant or something like that. And she's like... a quadroon, which means she's only a quarter Black. Very, very light skinned. No, was she a quadroon? She might have been an octoroon, which is an eighth Black.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they have this exchange where they're going back and forth with each other about how Black they are, and they're privileging their whiteness to try to say that they're better than one another.
Oh.
And so that whole, well, how Black are you? Well, I'm this Black, I'm that Black. It did at one point during like slavery times come with power and status. And that kind of survives now a little bit when people talk about, being light skinned, and why light skinned is such like a favored beauty trait, because it's kind of like you're perceived to have more power the closer you are to whiteness, and you're perceived to have more benefits. And so like our community has constantly grappled with who's one of us, who's not one of us, who's better, who's worse. And all of this is because of like imperialism and like the long-term effects of slavery. And so that's why this whole thing is just like so like not helpful to say, oh, you're Black, you're not Black.
Right.
Because why does it matter?
Right. But I think that's, other than the one point I want to make, do you have any other
I don't know.
feedback that you
let
want?
me see. I think I went through everything. Let me look at my notes. Yep, I hit them all.
The only thing that I want to talk about as just a final point before we get into rating it is I want to bring up the Roy Wood Jr. Funny Bone
Oh, yeah.
stand up because I feel like it kind of relates to this.
Okay.
When he talked about like almost like jury duty that everyone should have to stay with like these dudes who don't have any friends in their basement.
In cells.
Yeah. I'm like, that might have worked for Clifton. He's just like, he didn't have any friends. He was upset about this. Maybe.
Yeah, it probably would have. You know, when you're depressed or when you have like mental health problems, like isolation really doesn't help. Like it just gives you more time to think about the things that make you upset and make you feel bad. And that just over time just makes you feel worse.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, maybe if this guy had a friend, like maybe if he had met like, you know, someone like one of us in college and they was like, hey man, you know, don't worry about them people. Most people know how to play spades, man. Come on, let's just go. Let's go sit down, have a drink. Tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Like maybe if all was needed was one of those,
Right?
And he would have never, been on the path. He got like don't pay them people no mind. Come on, like that's all he needed. He just needed one of those.
Just need one of those. All it takes is one.
Yeah.
Make one friend. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Courtesy of the American Dream. Was it Jackson 5 American Dream miniseries came out in the 90s.
Oh, that was so fire.
Yeah. It was good. VH1 played the hell out of it for
they
months.
did. But it was worth it. I think I watched it every single time it came on.
Yeah, it was great. My favorite part was when his head caught fire.
My head.
My head spin. Oh, Michael. That and you a liar and you a cheat. And I don't want you no more.
Oh, gosh.
Tell him, Angela.
Oh, my goodness.
Them the best parts.
I feel bad she don't have no Oscar yet.
They're supposed to be giving her an honorary one, but I'm not sure who it's coming from. I read that earlier this week, and I was just like, my mind can't comprehend this. And I kept moving. I was like, I'm whatever. Like, we know who she is in our heart. Like,
We do. Yeah, she's the GOAT.
she's the best. So it's like just because whoever the Academy is doesn't appreciate her doesn't mean we can't appreciate her
That's
for
true.
forever. So
That's true.
you know, whatever.
All right. I think that's it.
Yeah.
So let's just rate it, and then we'll be done. What would you give it out of 10?
Ratings?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
We rate it out of 10. We say glasses because we get 10 glasses. If you're giving a half point, it's a monocle. And if you're giving a quarter of a
Monocle?
point, it's a contact lens.
child, I don't understand anything you just said to me. Because you don't have 10 pairs of glasses, or Bola does. I don't. So maybe that's how it came about. I thought y'all meant glasses like shot glasses or glasses of wine.
No, like seeing glasses, girl.
Seeing glasses.
It's also part of our logo.
I would definitely give it at least a 9. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I mean, I would probably give it a 10 just on funniness alone. But, you know, then I'd have to think about, well, what movies really are 10s? And it's just like, very high marks from me.
I would give it, 9 glasses from Liqua, 8 glasses from me. And with the understanding that it might actually, like, once it streams, it might actually move up for me. But for some of the parts, like for me, I always watch TV and movies at home with captions.
Yeah.
And I felt like I could have benefited
From the
from
captions.
captions at certain points during the movie. Because I couldn't quite hear certain parts.
No, definitely. Like the captions would be helpful. Like definitely on rewatch, I'm sure it'll be even funnier to me. But like for me, like laughter is so important, and it was so fresh, and it made me laugh so much. Like I don't even think of it as like a horror. Like, I know it was a horror movie, but it was not scary at all. Like, to me, it was just funny.
It's like,
it was just black and funny.
It was.
I felt like I was at, and you know, in the movie theater, I felt like there was just so much community going on. There was an uncle in the corner that just kept running his mouth. There was some aunties right next to me. I felt like I was like at a family gathering. Like, it just was really great for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
But that gives us an average of 8 glasses in the monocle. 8.5, peeps.
8.5.
Yeah, so it's definitely a watch. By the time this episode comes out, you guys, it probably won't be in theaters anymore. I'm sorry, because it's already kind of moving out, being pushed out by stuff.
That means you can look forward to it on streaming.
That is. And it'll probably be even better on streaming, because you can have captions for those of us like me who kind of need them for anything they watch.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it, you guys. This has been another episode of Blerd Talk with Bola and Whitney. Bola not here with our special guest, Liqua. So, we like to say at the end of the episode, so you can join me in this, just like we blerd out, we blerd out. So, everyone, blerd out.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe to our show on whatever podcast listening app you use, and share the show with other Blerds and non-Blerds, family and friends. And if you like this episode, please subscribe to our email newsletter at blerdtalkbw.ck.page, and also rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts.
Intro and outro music is Twilight by Caption. You can find them on SoundCloud, username Caption spelled CAPSHUN. Show notes by Bola Hanson, audio engineering by Whitney Booker.
And don't forget to get social, you guys. You can email us at blerdtalkbw@gmail.com. And our social media handles on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is at blerdtalkbw. And our YouTube channel is youtube.com/@blerdtalkbw. And we've got our individual things going on too. You can find the Triple F Queen on Instagram at Triple F Queen B as in boy. And my YouTube channel is youtube.com/@Triple F Queen B.
And you can find me, Whitney, at Luminabi Studios, my company, and the email address is wit@luminabi.com, spelled WHIT, @LUMENABI.com. And you can also find me on Twitter at Luminabi Studios.